you ever wondered, why do you f things up? I mean, like, why do you intentionally or unintentionally or as happenstance mess up things that are for your good out of nowhere? It is the most annoying thing, and we're going to dive into that today because this piece of life is hopefully over for both of us. All right, so I want to start out today with a story because I want to illustrate in the story so you can start to pick up whether you have some of the same tendencies or patterns. And you'll notice this overriding pattern, I hope, during the story that will really pinpoint what it is. Why it is that you fuck things up even when they're going well. Wasn't that long ago I was in, I think, the most favorite place I've ever lived in my life. I lived in the mountains of Santa Cruz. And before that, before going out there, my family and I sold our home, traveled around for 4 months, had the most amazing time, traveled all in Northern California and into Oregon, trying to decide on where we wanted to settle. It was almost like a real life Oregon Trail, except there was, I don't know, no death, no strange, awful diseases that are now easily solvable. Like, we made it. But this was during the time of COVID, and we did get COVID. And had to sequester an Airbnb for like almost 3 weeks unexpectedly. And I guess that's what brought our little trip to only 4 months, because we're just like, woo, we need a place to settle because this COVID is no joke. So we settled in a place in the mountains of Santa Cruz because that was the place we all found we liked the most. It happened to be where we were when we finally got over COVID. So it was a dual thing. Then we found a place. It was not very many places available at that time of year that we could get, because we decided to go ahead and rent for a year before we thought about making a purchase. So, there weren't that many places available that would house the entire family in the way we were used to being housed. So we got a place that was a bit more expensive than I would have liked. But we figured we could make it work, right? And there just wasn't a whole lot around. So we went there. We got the place. We finally moved all of our stuff in. And we set off on this terrific life. And as things were going along, my business was not doing as well as it used to be doing. Now, mind you, I wasn't doing all the different activities I used to do for marketing either, because we've been traveling and then we had COVID. So a lot of things I used to do weren't going on to where I would normally have a nice flow of business coming in. So then I thought, oh my gosh, I need help.
I need somebody help, not just anybody help. I need someone help.
And so I hired 2 coaches, because I thought I needed a lot of support. So I hired these 2 coaches to help me as I was going along, helping my own clients. I think it's really important, if you're a coach, to have a coach. So that part didn't really bother me, but you'll see the point in a minute. So I hired these 2 people because I was really sure I needed a lot of help. And I still wasn't doing as well. And there's still something not quite right. And business was starting to slow down. Our savings was starting to go down. And all of a sudden, here I was a few months before our lease was up for renewal. And I was like, what am I going to do? I love living here. This is the most perfect place on earth. I am just sure of it. So I'm going to bury my head in the sand and not look at all these things saying, maybe we should move elsewhere. So yeah, I did not move elsewhere. Did not move elsewhere. I want to dig my heels in, bury myself in deep, and that's what I did. Because a couple of things. A, I loved the place, so let's just make sure that's up front and personal. B, I had finally gotten my husband out of working 9 to 5 to, he had literally been on what he called vacation mode all of this time since we had sold our home because I was the sole provider. He didn't have to work. And he had been working since he was like 14 years old. So this was like joy for him. And he had blossomed and discovered all these different gifts because he didn't have the pressure of making those gifts produce income. And by the way, one of them did start producing income inadvertently. And only because I pushed him a little bit, and that was his YouTube channel. I'm like, hey, you have everything here to be monetized. Have you looked into monetization? And he finally did, and he was finally monetized. So that was pretty exciting. But it was the beginning of monetization, which, by the way, guys, I'm just here to tell you, is not a whole lot of money. It isn't necessarily a whole lot of money when you start getting monetized. It's over time, it builds, it snowballs. But in this case, I was looking at the fact he's finally blossoming, he's finally realizing all these beautiful gifts he has. I don't want that to end. What'll happen if that ends? How will he react if that ends? I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to dig my heels in even deeper. Plus, I like this place. Things move on. It's time to renew. So what do? Instead of saying, let's go hunt for another place so we could stay in this area and maintain our lives just at maybe a lower level, I renewed the lease. And what did I end up having to do 6 months later-ish? I had to break the lease because there just wasn't enough coming in. And that is hard for me to admit in an out loud voice right now. There wasn't enough coming in. I had spent that 6 months almost since we renewed the lease, pushing and prodding and pulling from everywhere, trying to make sure to maintain the lifestyle so I wouldn't have to tell my husband, so my kids wouldn't know, which eventually everyone knows mom's business isn't doing as well as it had been doing. And everyone knows now we're in the position where we're working to break a lease, which was awful. It was the worst position ever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I fuck this up? Like I was in this beautiful place and I really fucked it up. It was hurtful. But then blossoming out of that came a couple more situations. One was then, as that was happening, my husband got an offer from his cousin to move out of the country, which was exciting. And I was like, oh wow, this is something that's coming in for our good. This is something that is supportive, because in this moment where things are kind of falling apart, and they hadn't completely fallen apart, they were kind of falling apart, we're being asked to come and start a business up in another country. That didn't work out. That didn't work out for a million different reasons I won't go into, because that wasn't necessarily my dream of my digging in or any of my doing. It didn't work out. And during the transition from where we were in California to where we were supposed to be going in another country, we were supposed to stop over in Texas to see my family again and spend a couple of months here while we got passports and all those good things sorted out, right? And then I was afraid. I don't want my family to know what's going on. I don't want them to think that I'm a failure. What will they say? What will they do? How will they react? And So here I am also, not that my immediate, my kids, my husband don't know what's going on, but now I don't really want my family to know. So you can see, and I'm going to kind of like pause the story right here because it's not over yet. We're still in this strange transition that's happening. We are essentially homeless, but not unhoused, because we sold everything to move out of the country. And now it's like we are trying to come back, right? And figure out, okay, we're now here, and now what are we going to do? How are we going to react in this situation? Husband's already found other employment where we are now. And my business is starting to blossom back up. And so this is what I want to point out. As I told the story, I hope you noticed a few things. I hope you noticed the overriding thing in that story that drove decisions that should not have been driving decisions. Did you notice? Did you notice what it was? It was fear. Fear. So if you wonder why you fuck up good things, why it always seems like something good's happening and then something bad happens, I will say probably 99.9% of the time, it was fear, right? It was always fear. You know, as I said, we started driving around, everything was fine, and then we got COVID, and then we were afraid of driving around anymore, and then we started looking for a place, and we were afraid we couldn't find a place, so we just took what was on the market. Everything started being driven by fear. And so what is the fear? And even my decision not to say anything to my husband out of fear, right? Did you notice that? Everything was driven out of fear. It's like, how did I let fear take hold so deeply in me to drive all these decisions and then not make the best decisions, right? So look back at what is fear, right? What is fear? Fear, some people say it's false evidence appearing real, which I've always liked that. Because a lot of times that is kind of what fear is at a very surface level. But really what I had was fear of the future, right? I was so caught up in thinking about the future that I was in fear of what could happen, right? Did you notice that? Even when I was looking at past things, I was projecting those past things into the future and being like, but what if this happened? What if that happened? What if this thing that has never happened in the history of the world suddenly happens? Okay? This is how you fuck up things. You get too caught up in what I call future tripping, right? And I was in heavy future tripping that whole time. As soon as we got COVID and started coming out of that, I got into future tripping heavy, right? Heavy. So I want you to look at a couple of things. I call, we play that game, 2 truths and a lie. I want to play a different game with you called 2 lies and a truth. And I want to do them with these old sayings, these idioms or whatever that you may have heard in the past. So I want you to guess which 2 are the lies and which one is truth. So the first one is, be careful for what you wish for, you just may get it. The second one is, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. And the third one is, waiting for the other shoe to drop. So out of those, did you figure out which ones represent the 2 lies and which one represents the truth? Because this has everything to do with fear. Everything. So let's look at them. We had the first one, which was, be careful what you wish for, you just may get it. It's like almost as if you were wanting bad things to happen, right? You are totally focused on awful outcomes, or what I even call unintended consequences, right? And those unintended consequences are bad. Lie. Let's look at the second one. Don't look at a gift horse in the mouth. To me, this one was a lot about, if you look it in the mouth, ooh, this might not be such a great gift, right? If you try to sit and ruminate with it and look through it. Or another way I've learned to look at that saying is, this is about gratitude. Be happy you were gifted with something. Look at what has been handed over to you. Look what you have providence over, right? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. You got a horse. Whether it lasts one day or it lasts 20 years, you got a horse. Be excited. That's the truth. So I guess you know the last one's a lie, right? When you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, again, you're looking for a negative outcome. And guess what? You're going to find a negative outcome. Both of the ones that were lies were definitely all bore out of fear. Did you notice that? And waiting for the other shoe to drop. Why? Something bad's going to happen. what's going to happen. And you're looking, right? That's all about that future tripping all over again when you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. So you're always guarded, always afraid, and you're in contraction. Anytime you feel yourself in contraction, you're in fear. So notice why your body feels contracted. Like this is a noticing exercise. And if you notice why your body's in contraction, and you can see if it's a truth or not, or you see that you're future tripping, you're not being in the present moment, that is the time to release, focus on your breath, and come into present. Because in the present moment is where you have all of your power. Not in the past, not in the future, right here in the present. And that's why waiting for the other shoe to drop and having that as that tape that plays in the back of your mind is so destructive. You are definitely always future tripping. The other lie, be careful what you wish for, you just may get it. And again, that's a conditioning of being afraid, right? Being in fear of what may come. Notice that all these little idioms are all about future tripping. Future tripping is dangerous. Now, why did I say the other one was the truth? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I mentioned earlier, it's about gratitude. That is how I start shifting that in my mind. It's like, I don't need to know everything about what was given to me. I just need to be grateful it was given to me. And once I'm in gratitude, it was given to me, all sorts of other opportunities open up. All sorts of ways I can leverage this gift to do other things. Greater things, lesser things, but things nonetheless, right? So let's say you did get that horse, and that horse only lived for a couple of days or a month or whatever. You can still leverage, I mean, this sounds so sad, but you can still leverage the horse's body itself into other things to recoup money, because it was a gift. You're literally clearing money. Or if the horse is going to live a long time, you can take kids on pony rides. You can ride it yourself. You can run it in races. Like, there's all sorts of things you could do, right? With the horse. They're not great for plowing fields, but you get the point. There's all sorts of things you can leverage the horse's might for your good. But if you get obsessed with making sure that it's healthy and you want to reject it if it isn't perfect, then you're blocking your own good. Does that make sense? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Right? The energy that you put out magnifies, like the ripple effect. Think about the ripple in the pond. It magnifies as it goes out and then gets mirrored back to you. So what do you want mirrored back to you? Do you want what's mirrored back to you, the fear that you're projecting into the future? You want that fear coming back to you? Is that what you want? Or do you want to put something beautiful and wonderful out in the world? Have that amplify and mirror back to you. And either way, when you're making decisions out of fear, it's a fear, that underlying vibration of fear that's also getting magnified out. Even if you're trying to think of something good, that's what's getting thrown back. And that's what happened with me. Even though I was trying to make the best decisions, I was making them out of fear, and that fear kept snowballing and bouncing back and bouncing back, magnifying, bouncing back, magnifying, bouncing back. Because at every point, I made decisions out of fear. And it has taken a while to break out of that fear cycle. And to be honest, I'm not totally out. I'm getting out. But I knew in my heart that this was a video that needed to go out, because I think a lot of people are stuck in this fear cycle. And there is a way out. There is a way to, using the bus, right? You can look on the side of the mountain that's dim and gloom, or you can look at the side of the mountain that's all bright and shiny and sunny and wonderful. Gratitude, perspective change, all of those get you out of the fear cycle. And so I really encourage you. I have a video that talks all about this, I will make sure to link it below. And I have a wonderful meditation on positive energy. I'll make sure to link that below as well. So there'll be 2 of them below just for you. One that goes really into having that attitude of gratitude, and I talk about the victim triangle, which is very related to the fear cycle. So definitely check out that video. And then I have the 10-minute positive energy meditation. I think that you'll find really useful as well. So both of those are going to be linked below. And right now, before I forget, please like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. Because like I said, this message is something I've really felt needed to get out. It's been coming down in dribs and drabs in the download. And I knew in my heart this was time to share. Some things are very uncomfortable for me to share. But to put a fine point on what happens when you get into that fear cycle and why it's so important to get out. Then I want to say more about getting out, right? Move toward more love for the people around you, right? And for yourself. This is a huge time for you to start caring more about yourself, to really put in some extra time with self-care, some extra time with gratitude and grace. Give yourself lots of grace. This is also time to open up, like I said before, realize the universe is conspiring on your behalf. In all ways. Like you literally cannot fuck it up. You may feel like you fucked it up and things will never be right again. But that, my love, is a lie. The universe is always conspiring on your behalf. It is always course correcting you. Right? Just like the GPS, it is always course correcting you so that it can help you get to your good. This is how miracles and magic happen. It's going to start with your thought being magnified out and returning back to you in form. With that, my loves, peace, joy, love. To you.